All right, you guys, we are trying to do the first ever Bid Nerds live show. This
Uh,
is
uh,
kind of
oh,
our second attempt
yeah, or a second
um,
take this morning. Yeah.
for you guys. So we're seeing if this is work. Welcome to Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on all the internet auction sites. This is going to be clunky because we don't know if this is working or not. So
Yeah.
if if you know us and you're like, what are these idiots doing? I mean, we're doing idiot stuff. That's generally what we do. But send us a text or a
Oh,
DM or something.
whoop,
Wait, I've got
somebody's
a text.
watching.
Someone said it's working.
Yeah. All right. Good. Somebody's watching.
Okay, all right. This is on. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bid Nerds. My name is John Polnik. I'm your host, along with my partner, Michael Deeb. We're doing it live out of Las Vegas. It's sweaty, sticky Las Vegas. We had the big hurricane last night, which amounted to a whole lot of nothing. It's just hot and sticky. And Michael Deeb is down in his sticky little basement. We said we'd have a name for your studio by now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
as per usual, we don't.
Yeah. We'll get to it.
Welcome back. We're back in studio. We've been a little clunky on our publishing lately. Our apologies. We are working on a bunch of stuff. Obviously, we're going to start doing the show live regularly. And also, Michael Deeb, a lot of people know and some people don't, but some of you all know that Michael Deeb is working with the Hagerty Marketplace Group now, and so
Yeah.
you were there on official capacity
Right.
at Monterey Car Week. I missed Monterey Car Week. I was seeing your photos, and I was getting pretty jelly. Why don't you tell us
Yeah.
about what was going down
Yeah.
in Monterey?
It's awesome.
What did I miss out on?
Yeah. So, listen, I couldn't tell you because I worked the entire week. I spent 5 days at the Jet Center. 3 of those days, John, we pulled 15 hours days trying to move around 172 cars and set up essentially 2 or 3 warehouses, like airplane hangars, for cars to be on display and to set up the room for the auction, the live auction itself at the Jet Center. 3 of those days, JP, we worked 15-hour days to get everything in order on time. And successfully, I might add. We pulled it off without a hitch. I started in June, and I've met most of my coworkers on Zoom calls and emails. It was really fun to have everybody converge on Monterey and spend 5 days together with my new team down there. Lots of hugs and sad goodbyes as everybody has to fly back home to the Midwest or the East Coast. But really great to know that the people I'm interacting with, and then when you work and you pull a 15-hour day with the same people, and there's no drama, nobody got in fights or arguments, all really solid, good, amazing people. Some of them really hit it off with, and I feel like old friends, people I've known for a while, and guys I can't wait for you to meet in the coming years. John, it was pretty awesome what we did, because I was so busy. I didn't get to go to Works Reunion. I didn't get to go to Concorso Italiano. I didn't get to do anything because we worked so hard to pull it off. But it was really, really fun. The auction was amazing. We knocked out 172 cars, and
Wow.
very proud of the job we all did. We're patting ourselves on the back, and I tipped a couple of beers on Friday night, and it was really cool. We did go to the track on Saturday for some of the races. Hagerty puts up this building, JP, right by turn 3. That's one of these Formula One 2-story, luxury suites, so they can take care of their super high-end clients. For sake of argument, Gordon Murray was sitting there having lunch with his wife when we went in. But picture this, JP, this beautiful building. It's for Hagerty's Radius clientele. As a Hagerty employee, we weren't really supposed to get in. We kind of talked our way past the door guy. We're up on the second level, and we're watching a race start. McKeel Hagerty himself is hanging out with his family, and there's got 100 VIP clients in the building. He came and he stood with the car specialists, the 5 or 6 of us, me and Ray Schaefer and Ramsey, and we're we're hanging out, and I snuck Yuri, and of course And I said to Yuri, I said, look at this. Like, look at all the people here. Like, Gordon Murray is sitting there with his wife, and McKeel Hagerty is hanging out with us. And he hung out with us for like an hour solid, ignored his family, and just was talking to us about, basically all the millions of dollars we just put in their pocket, I'm sure. But it was really cool. We had a great time, and yeah, it was fun. The weather was spectacular. I wished you were there, but you didn't make it. Ben, the professor, didn't make it. I mean, it was an unusual, like a very unusual Monterey Car Week. But I saw some of the other usual suspects. I ran into Warren and Art and Lane. I saw those guys. They did at the Motorlux party at the Jet Center on Wednesday night. Radwood had their own display, which was super, super cool. And so I got to see those guys for a couple days. If you can imagine, John, I parked my 911 on the tarmac across from our hangar on Monday. And on Tuesday, I parked it there the same time. And in the middle of the day, I looked over and there's a bright yellow E36 M3 parked so close to my car, I can't get my front door open. And I'm like, fucking Warren. he it was really funny. He pulled up, saw my car, and he went and locked me in. And I saw him like an hour later. I'm like, hey, you gonna move your car? Am I gonna door ding you? It was pretty funny. So it was, it was really great. Like a big family reunion. I saw a lot of people came through. Frank Amoroso came and hung out. Kellen Patler, the good friends of mine, stopped by. If I forgot to say your name, please forgive me. But it was really, really fun.
Well, that sounds spectacular. I'm sorry I missed out. Congratulations to you guys over at the Hagerty Marketplace. For the record, Hagerty Marketplace does not yet sponsor this show. That is something that we would love to have them help us out with. But for the record, they are not supporting the show. They are your employee, Michael Deeb's employee, not mine.
Employer.
Employer. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And so there it is. Our employer, or rather our actual sponsor, not employer. Neither one of us are employed by our good friends at Godden Porsche and Godden Classic of Las Vegas. They had a pretty spectacular time in Monterey as well. They won their class with the restoration project this year. So
the yellow 993. The yellow 993 Turbo, right?
That is correct, yeah. And I made a film for them, and so that's published on their channel. Go check it out. We'll probably put it on the Durfoss Nation channel at some point, too.
Listen to this quick story. So on Wednesday, I'm coming back into one of the hangars with all our cars in it, and I see Gary, Brian Miner, and Steve Thiel pouring over a particular car of interest, and so I went running up to them and said hello, and then I got to meet Dan, who's the classic technician at Godden. So I got to meet him, and I told him that you were saying all these great things about him, and I got his number. And he was going to try. He said he knows a Greek mechanic out here in Northern California. He was going to try and find his number for me that I could bring my 911 to. But otherwise, I know it was really cool to see those guys. And then they came back on Thursday night for the auction with Gary's really good friend Bill, who runs one of the big hotels. So it was really, really fun to see those guys and hugs and kisses and all the nonsense. So it felt like home. It was really nice.
Nice. Well, all right. I guess let's get back to the business of Bid Nerds. What do we actually do on this show? Is we identify the most interesting car of the day. We make a prediction as what's going to happen with that car's auctions. What will the results be? We'll tell you what we think the results will be. And then later in the episode, we will reconcile our predictions with what actually happened, which oftentimes is wrong. So that's usually what we do on the daily show. But on this show, we're going to do this once a week. We're going to do it live. We're going to reconcile all of our predictions from last week. Right here and show you how wrong we were, and then we'll make our new predictions on this episode. So this is not an episode like the normal ones where you can stick around to the end and see what happens. This particular thing, this is we're doing it live. We're doing it live
without a net.
That's right.
live without a net.
Without a net. So we're going to start. So last week, because Michael Deeb was in Monterey, we weren't able to do a show or do any prediction. We did get one prediction in the can when we were doing our last session. So we're going to go ahead and reconcile our prediction
Chefs.
from last week, so it's only going to be one car in this episode. Normally, it'll be 3, 4, sometimes 5 cars that we'll be reconciling. But on this very first dumpster fire of a Bid Nerds Live show, we're going to do one car, and this car is kind of special to us. Shout out to our good friend Chef William. At the Red Rock Country Club, where him and I partner up every year, and we put on Vegas Auto Fest, which is coming up on the 16th of September.
Yeah, give us the date, the 16th of September, which is Saturday, right?
It is a Saturday, yeah. So we are
Saturday,
gearing
Sunday,
up for the
Saturday.
biggest car show of the year in Las Vegas. Make your way to Las. This is a great year to come out to Vegas for Vegas Auto Fest, Michael Deeb, because this year is the first year that our show isn't on the same weekend as Life is Beautiful. Usually it is, which means all the hotels are booked, and it's really hard to come here. But this year, September 16th, there's nothing else big going on. We're the biggest thing going on, so you can book a reasonably priced hotel, and we do have a deal at the Circa.
Okay, cool.
So,
when is Formula One in relation to your weekend? Is it before you or after you?
Formula One is way after us. That's in November. So that's
November.
I think it's Thanksgiving weekend or something like that, or the week before or week after,
deep
something
in
like
the
that.
year. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, cool.
So that'll be really
Very
cool.
good.
Come and see the new. Anyway, so back to Chef and his car. Chef, our good friend Chef William, decided on my recommendation. Thank you very much. He will tell us about his car and what did he do with his car, Michael Deeb? This is the
JP,
reconciliation. So we've already done the front half of this.
Yeah, but this is live.
This is a new episode. True. Yeah.
Let's bring it in. So what Chef did is he took his beautiful modified and resto modded 1963 Volkswagen Karmann Ghia convertible, and he threw it up on Bring a Trailer. Out of Las Vegas. He got really good feedback. We took a kind of a deep dive into his particular car, black with the red interior, the beige carpets, the beautiful banjo style steering wheel. If I remember correctly, Chef has like a 2000 cc, right? Isn't his a 2-liter flat 4?
It was a 1944 or something like that. Yeah.
1914 cc. He's got dual carbs, and the car has been in plenty of like shows and awards. You were saying later how oftentimes he'll go and take it to a Volkswagen show and then leave, and they call him and they're like, "Hey, where you at, man? You won like best in show." And he's like, give the trophy to somebody else. Like he got so many awards with this car, he got tired of taking them home. But the car is really beautiful. I was actually surprised to see that he was selling it, because I know how much he loves driving it. I know how proud he is of the car. I really thought it would be like kind of a forever car for him, but he decided to let it go based simply on the fact that he's starting to collect Porsches and he's running out of room. He's got like a finite number of cars in his garage. So if he wants to get a new car, he's got to let an existing car in his collection go. And that was the case here. So without further ado, JP, you and I thought that he was going to break the bank on this car. I went $65,000. You came in under at $58,000. And what's interesting to note is when we were reviewing the car, it was sitting at $30,000, which at the time was $2,000 higher than any Ghia had ever brought on Bring a Trailer before. So like when we were reviewing the car, he was already going to set a new record for a Ghia convertible. His car sold, JP. Didn't he run it at no reserve too? No.
Yeah, hold on just a second. Hey, everybody out there. This is the fun part of the live show. I am not able to see my scenes. Oh, here we go. Now we can go back to the two of us. Okay, just wanted to do that. All right. Yeah. Sorry about that.
So, JP, he didn't run it with no reserve. It did have a reserve, but anyways, so from $30,000, I said 65. You said 58. JP, he sold the car for $60,000 on 41 bids. Yep. He absolutely crushed it. Congratulations to Chef and to the new buyer. When you get that car and you see the fit and finish and drive it and see how well it drives, you're going to be stoked you bought that car.
Yeah.
You could not replicate it for $100,000. So that guy basically bought a done, beautiful, state-of-the-art, like as good as it gets Karmann Ghia convertible for like 60 cents on the dollar. Really, really well done. Chef absolutely crushed it. He knocked it out of the park. What do you think, John? And how happy was he with the result? Was he really happy?
Oh man, I mean, I was standing right next to him while it was going down, and the thing is, it was one of those exciting auctions. I mean, Bring a Trailer fought him on his reserve. And by and large, I would agree with Bring a Trailer's general position that they need to have some downward pressure on reserves these days, because we are seeing price corrections in a lot of, in a lot of different types of cars. So, he went to them and said, hey, I want to, and I won't reveal what the reserve was, but let's just say it was a lot higher than $30,000.
Sure.
Bring a Trailer said the highest bid, the biggest number they'd ever gotten on any Gia ever prior to his was $29,000. So they were like, really, like, I don't know if we want to give you more than the highest one ever. And he was tens of thousands of dollars more than that. So they agreed on a number, and here it was, the day of the auction, and well, actually, like you said, the very first day, the first bid on the very first day was $30,000. That was higher than any Gia had ever gone. And that was the first freaking day. So that tells you just how nice his car was. The people that knew these cars were like, oh yeah, this is a good one. So then, but not a lot of action for the rest of the week, right? It just kind of lingered for days and days and days. Chef was starting to get worried. He was like, starting to make deals like, hey, how about I take your car and you give me car and you take the risk. I was like, I should have taken him up on that, right? But there it was. I told him just relax. It all happens in that last kind of 10 minutes and
at the close. Yeah.
At the close, and his auction was one of those auctions that went on. Because as you guys know, every time when it gets down to that last 2 minutes, someone makes a bid, and then it adds 2 minutes. And his auction went on for about a half an hour. With 2-minute increments. It would get down to like 10, 15 seconds. Boom, another grand. Boom, another grand. Like, no one was doing big knockout punches. And there were like 4 or 5 different guys that were going at it till the bitter end. And right there up to 60. I kind of thought at that point, with the way the bids were coming, I'm like, sure, this thing's going to hit 75 grand. But it did stall out at 60, if you can call it stalling out. But yes, of course, he was very happy. I think, look, like you said, the person who's getting this car could not build that car for 60 grand. Not a chance.
Right.
You're spending twice that to build this car. So they got a great deal, but that was still, twice as much money as any Gia has ever gone. He didn't just break the record. He blew it up.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Chef.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, John, if we see a lot of Gias hit the market now, when people look, should I bring my Carmi Gia to Bring a Trailer, and they look at their history and they see that a nice convertible brought $60,000. I think that should inspire a lot of people to bring their cars to market. So congratulations, Chef. I couldn't be happier for you. Sad to see your car go, I'm sure, but you've got to be thrilled with the return on your investment and what your car brought, because you really did do better than I think everybody thought.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have we've talked a lot. We talk about Volkswagens fairly often, and we've seen some water pumpers bring in some pretty big money, whereas they weren't bringing that. Like we saw that really nice Scirocco 16 valve last week, or the week before, that actually brought real money. I mean, both of us kind of overbid it. We're all kind of like going after that $80,000 Mark II GTI that was a few months ago. But I think, so a Scirocco getting $40,000 or something wasn't nearly as much as the $80,000 GTI, but that's still 3, 4, 5 times more than any Scirocco has ever gotten. So it's nice to see that Volkswagens are starting to get appreciated. We haven't really seen air-cooled Volkswagens do very well on BAT. But partly this, I think for the same reason, though, that we haven't really seen the Scirocco's and Corrados do very well, is because the examples that come to market haven't been very nice. And so here it is, Chef's Volkswagen brought all this money. Anyone else that goes to BAT, I feel bad for those people that are setting those reserves, because they're going to have to make an argument against Chef's car. And most of the people that are going to bring Carmen Gias to the market are not going to be at the level of Chef's car. I got $60,000. I want $50,000. It's like, no, dude, cool your jets, turbo. That is not your Gia. Chill the F out and get real. Let's get real for a second. Your Gia is probably worth 15 or 20. So yeah, I mean, you have to deal with that. You're on Hagerty Marketplace and you're bringing onboarding cars. So what is that conversation like? And I don't want to, you to
no. I'll give you the inside play, right? So I meet a customer
without betraying any confidence with any of your which you would never do.
No. It's not like that. You meet a customer. I mean, this is like sales department of anybody that's selling cars or cell phones or real estate. This guy comes to me and he says, "Hey, I want, would you sell my car for me?" And they always want me to tell them what I think it's worth. I've known their car for less than 5 minutes and they've had their car for 2 years. I said, you got to tell me what you want for it, and inevitably everybody thinks that they're going to just like demand a retail number. And it's always the highest retail number they've ever heard of for their model. So, Porsche 911, I want 65 for it. I'm like, okay, that might be a little steep. Why don't we try something more realistic? How about 55? And then, you negotiate to like 59,000. Then I submit that number to my team, my coworkers, and they are going to go, listen, we really want this consignment and we really want the car to sell. None of us that work here want to get all dressed up for nothing. Do you know what I mean? So like, we're not going to do all the marketing and spend all this time on your car and run it on our site only to have it not sell because we all agreed to an unrealistic reserve for that car. So my team will probably hit me at 50, and then I have to go back and renegotiate my deal, just based on whatever it was they submitted. I said, well, look, this is where my team is at. And so, there's a lot of back and forth, but the way we put it, John, internally is it's better to have a tough conversation now than have a brutal conversation later when we find out their car didn't sell. So in other words, if we had agreed to like this $60,000 or $65,000 reserve and the car stalled out at $53,000 and we were asking for a $50,000 reserve all along, we didn't do our job right. That's not the customer's fault. So we need to fix that up front. We need to have that tough conversation. And honestly, that single conversation of negotiating the reserve is the only difficult part of my job. All the rest of it is pretty much cake, right? Identifying the cars, going to see them, doing the work on the computer to get the thing uploaded, meeting up with the photographer to go out early in the morning to get some great shots and writing it up and then answering questions during the auction. All that stuff to me is easy, but the negotiating the reserve that's where the magic happens. That's where you got to be able to set realistic expectations to get the job done.
Well, once again, I'm going to take all the credit for Chef's grand sale because, frankly, we made an awesome film for it. And, we had our good friend Solomon sold his GT4 with 70,000 miles on it. And he got, almost $100,000 for that car. Why? I've seen a common denominator. We made a film about it and it was awesome. Yeah. So there it is.
My Mercedes 190 was looking like it wasn't going to meet reserve, and you helped me pull reserve on that. It wound up going beyond the reserve and doing pretty well. But if we had not done that same thing, thanks to you on the 914, I would still own that car.
Yeah.
Which would be, that'd be a tough one to explain to my wife why I bought another new car. But anyway, you can take credit for a few of them. JP,
well, I mean, that's the thing. If we had made films about those cars, then we would have had a much different situation. You'd have been making big money. Anyway, so there it is. If you are considering maybe selling your car on an auction site, maybe give my friend Deeb a call, and when it comes time to having some images shot on that thing and making a film, give me a call.
It to Vegas.
That's right. Again, Hagerty Marketplace does not sponsor this show, but Michael Deeb is employed by those guys. There it is. Okay. So this is, we spent a lot of time, kind of jibber jabbing about stuff going on. And, we talked a lot about Chef's car, in this first half of the show. Normally we'd be breaking down 2 or 3 or 4 cars in the same amount of time. But again, this is our first live in a while and we're doing this a little differently. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and, are we? I don't know if I have the darn commercial queued up.
That's okay.
So play along with us out there, guys. Maybe so when I'm gonna just play Chef's video again. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
You can hear that? That's coming
Uh,
through?
I hear music. I mean, I don't know if it's coming through your microphone, but it's coming through. We can hear music.
Okay, so maybe what I'm gonna do is I'll just play the Vegas Auto Fest commercial from somewhere. So
Sure.
give me a second
See how
here.
that works.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a funny one while you're doing that.
Okay.
Last year, Yuri and I took Rafi's Alfa Romeo 8C to Concorso Italiano, and we put it in the show. And it was, it was a, if you're in the show, you're featured to compete. They come around and they judge the car, and so anyways, it won nothing when we took it down there, and we got down there early and we spent a half an hour buffing the car out, getting it all really nice. Rafi just hired this assistant, like an apprentice. He's going to teach how to mechanic, some young Italian kid. So this Italian kid and his friend took Rafi's Alfa Romeo 8C back to Concorso Italiano and put it on the lawn, and they won a trophy for the car. The car won an award, and I'm like, I just thought that was hilarious. Like, the car was there 2 years in a row. Nobody noticed it last year when we had it. This year, like, these kids are like, look, Rafi, we won you an award. I wonder if the judges came up and saw, like, these Italian kids driving this beautiful car, and they were like, oh my God, I'm so impressed. Where Yuri and I were down there, they were like, where's your tickets?
Yeah, right. Well,
so
we're
funny,
just
dude.
going to have to give a shout out to our friends at Vegas not just Vegas Auto Fest, but why don't you talk a little bit about Godden Classic there, Michael Deeb?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, JP, I don't know if the people know this or not, but there are 190 Porsche stores in the United States. 12 of them are Porsche Classic partners. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas was North America's first Porsche Classic partner. The people at Porsche Classic in Germany vetted Godden Porsche and decided out of 190 stores that they were the ones that had the experts, the passion, the money, the resources, and the brand new, beautiful Gen 4 facility that was built in Las Vegas to be North America's first Porsche Classic partner. So if you have a classic Porsche of any generation, Porsche Classic makes parts for your car. Bring it in for service, let them diagnose whatever troubles you might be having, and recommend the OEM Porsche parts that are still being made in the Originale catalog, and have them fix the car for you. Repairs, service, and sales. They also inventory some classic Porsches. Godden Porsche is your one stop for classic everything. If you have a classic Porsche, give Godden Porsche a call and tell them the Bid Nerds sent you.
Very nicely done, Michael Deeb.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I was showing some clips from the
Yeah.
film about their restoration. Who's
that? The gal? Who's narrating the film?
So that film, we definitely encourage you to go to the Godden Classic YouTube channel and check out that film. It really was kind of a heart, what do you call it?
Tug on the heartstrings. Yeah.
Tug on the heartstrings thing. Yeah, because it's like the previous owner of the car fell ill. And he had, his daughter spent a lot of time in that car. That was him and his daughter's kind of connection. So that was them taking the car. So the gentleman who owned the car gave it up to Godden so that he could take care of his daughter, make sure that she was financially kept taken care of after he passed. That was one of the things, and the car needed a restoration, so he knew that she wouldn't have been able to really handle that. So it just didn't make sense for her to hold on to the car. So she told her story about how much time she spent in that car growing up, and that was one of the reasons why Godden decided to not restore the car, but they decided to preserve it. So they went through, and instead of like changing the steering wheel or changing the seats because they were slightly worn, they, preserved those actual items that the dad actually touched. So, which I guess wound up being a much more difficult process than just you restore something, you just replace the old stuff. This thing, you're trying to keep things that, are old together. So it was really, check out the story. Anyways, Godden Classic Las Vegas is fantastic. All right, let's get to the predictions. What cars do we have? What are we going to start out with here, Michael Deeb?
All right, let's start with this on Bring a Trailer. 1997 Lotus Esprit V8. JP, this car is got 23,000 original miles and is offered out of Villa Park, Illinois. Um, Super cool car, JP. You know, the Lotus Esprit is a beautiful Gigaro design. This was sort of the last of the breed when they, got rid of the 4-cylinder turbo and decided to put a V8 twin turbo that made like 350 horsepower under the hood. So that this car, which was a design from the early 70s, now, 20 something years later, Lotus is still making it, and they want it to keep up with more contemporary sports and supercars of the era. So they had to, expand the performance of it by getting rid of the 4-banger and putting a 3.5 liter double overhead cam V8. Still had a 5-speed manual, still rear wheel drive, but way more updated bodywork and spoiler, beautiful wheels and suspension and brakes. This car, I always thought the very first ones looked really cool, and then these last ones I thought looked really cool. It certainly looked a lot more comfortable on the inside too. Much finer materials, I think, go a long way. This car is accompanied by its original sticker. Can you believe in 1997, JP, this was just an $83,000 car, $82,796. There's also a certificate of provenance included with the sale. Apparently just a 3-owner car. Looks fantastic in the bright red with the silver wheels, the tan leather, and the red piping. There's a lot to like here, JP. I've never driven one of these. This is one of those cars that's sort of on my list. And I should bring that up only in light of the fact that while I was at the Jet Center all week, I got to, I know I only moved the cars around on the parking lot, but I got to get behind the wheel of a ton of cars that I have never driven before. And it was really, really funny. It was super fun to kind of like, just be able to start like a Lamborghini Reventon or a 288 GTO and move it across the parking lot. I have yet in all my car dealings getting to drive a Lotus Esprit of any generation. But if I got to, I'd be scared to drive one of these because I might like it and would want to buy one. These are still really affordable for how exotic, sort of almost supercarish that they really are. So JP, I send back to you the 1997 Lotus Esprit V8, which is 23,000 miles. Super rare, John. One of only 132 V8 models imported to North America in 1997. Can you imagine they sold less than 150 of these that year? What do you think? Have you driven one? I keep forgetting to ask, or if I've asked you and you give me the answer, I forgot. Ever driven the Lotus Esprit, V8 or otherwise?
Come on, man. License to Drive? Was that the movie? Or License to Kill or something like that? Or whatever with Booker? Who was that guy? He was the other guy. He was the lesser guy in 21 Jump Street, not Johnny Depp, but the other dude that had his own show. And then he had like one movie where he played a teen on a like European, field trip kind of thing. And he gets separated from the busload of teens and mistaken for a James Bond type character. And they give him one of these, and he travels around, it was in a red one. I think it was one of the turbo, one of the little 4-cylinder turbo jobs. But yeah, that movie, for those of you guys can look it up. It was a silly movie. I've always loved these. I have driven one of these. In fact, I want to say it was a circa probably a 90. It must have been in like an 89 or a 90 because I worked for a Lotus. Well, it wasn't a Lotus deal. I worked for a dealership.
Yeah.
At the time, that was it. They owned a bunch of franchises. It was Bayside, Porsche, Lotus, Mercedes, Volvo, Toyota, and then I worked at this stupid little their pot lot on the little strip in the every town has that strip where all the crappy car dealers, where all the big dealers send their crappy trade-ins. I sold those. Yeah. That was my car sales experience, right? I'm like a 19-year-old punk. And I had to go and drop something off at the Toyota store across town. And while I was there, I think one of the older sales managers thought didn't think I was a salesperson. I think he thought I was a lot kid or something. So he was like, here. I need this car brought over to whatever. And so I'm like, he hands me the keys. I'm like, I'm not arguing with this guy right now. It's a brand new Lotus Esprit, and I got in that thing, and I took the long way, man. They were ticked when I mean, I only had to go like 3 blocks, and it took me an hour. I'm like, I got lost. I'm not down here. But it was terrifying. Huh?
Yeah, 70 miles on the car.
Yeah, I mean,
an hour later.
I took it to Dick's Drive-In, got a cheeseburger. I mean, I'm like showing off. I always did it. So, fire me. I don't care. I got to drive a Lotus. Whatever. I'm 19. I'm an idiot. But there was an article written about the car at the time where it was like on Road and Track or something like that, where the writer said that seeing out of the car was like seeing out of a World War II bunker. It had that slit behind you where you're looking. I don't know if you've ever driven a Countach. It's the same way, right? You can't see out of it. You can see forward, and that's it. The backing one up or blind spots. That's all it was. It's like it's like driving through looking through a straw. So it was terrifying on those hills in Seattle with traffic and stuff like that. But again, it wasn't my car, so I didn't care. I would love to drive one again. I mean, I didn't really know how to drive, and I didn't fully get to appreciate it. I got to appreciate how flashy it looked, which I think is what you were commenting on. I mean, these cars look they look the business, right? It looks
beautiful.
Like every bit as exotic as the Countach or the a 348
Ferrari.
Contemporary at the time or whatever. It was a great looking car, but always kind of anemic. That 4-cylinder, you had to ramp it out, and it was So I've never driven one of these V8s, and I'd sure like to. Have you heard of anybody? Love to hear your guys's.
Right.
Tell us in the comments below what's it like to drive one of these V8s. There's one in town here in Vegas that shows up to car shows all the time.
Flat plane crank, double overhead V8, 350 horsepower, 295 pound-foot of torque. I mean, that just sounds.
That sounds like you're describing a 355.
Yeah, just right.
Mid-engine V8, bright red.
Do you remember
exotic car?
Aren't these cars guilty of something that was really common back in that era, where the firewall, the wheel well kind of impedes the pedal box, and so the pedals are all over to the right? Do you remember that?
And the switchgear is junk. I mean, this is a British car. Right? I mean, there was a picture as we were going through the pictures there. Remember this was also the era where they teamed up with Isuzu.
Right.
They had. Right, they had the Isuzu Impulse, which and then they had the Lotus Elise.
Paul Kramer has?
What's that?
Isn't that what Paul Kramer has?
Yeah. What the heck? Yeah, that was the earlier generation, and then there was the Elan or something. So maybe and the Elise isn't right. Yeah, it was the Elan. Was the little kind of Miata looking thing. The thing that he had the actual Isuzu. That wasn't called a Lotus. That was an Isuzu, and it said suspension by Lotus. Whereas the Lotus Elan was designed by Lotus, but it had an Isuzu engine and an Isuzu switchgear. Right. And I always thought that was a great looking car. It was way better looking than a Miata, but it was front wheel drive. I was like, But look at the steering wheel, guys. I mean, is that not an Isuzu steering wheel? The leather all looks pretty good and all that, but the switch gears, the buttons, I mean, that's right out of your Isuzu stuff. So that's where you start to kind of really fall down. It's these are not known to be reliable cars. All that said, let's get to our prediction. Let's move on. What do we think the results of this auction will be?
That's a good question, JP. So with just 23,000 miles on this 1997 Lotus Esprit V8 out of Villa Park, Illinois, our car is currently sitting at $29,000 on just 8 bids. JP, the car looks to be nice. I'd say it's better than good condition, but maybe not excellent with 23,000 miles. We've seen a couple of these struggle to sell recently. Wasn't there one that we saw that bounced back and forth between like the Mark platform and either was it P-Car Market or Cars and Bids?
I recall this.
And it was very similar to this car, and they really struggled to sell that car. So in a perfect world and a good economy, this should be $100,000 car. But I don't think that's going to happen here. This car should bring 85 grand, and I don't think that's going to happen. One of the things I haven't talked about yet, and we'll continue to talk about this over the coming weeks, because I think you and I have started to see that this happening, but there's been a big softening of the market. A lot of cars, not just our auction, but all the auctions, failed to meet low reserve. or low, I should say low estimates in a lot of the big auction houses. Don't get me wrong, there's a few bright spots that are always going to set some, like, whoa, how are you, numbers. But by and large, most cars were soft. And I feel like a car that is so niche and doesn't have a big demand, this is going to be a true victim of the softening of the market. So, John, believe it or not, I'm going to give you a really low number. I don't know if this car will make $65,000. I'm going to say 60 grand and give it to you right there and just say, I apologize to the guy who owns this car, but you picked the wrong week to sell it, my friend. I'm going to go $60,000, which is against my better judgment, but there you go.
I think that's crazy high. I don't think it gets anywhere even remotely close to that. I think
Really?
if this thing gets another $10,000 or $15,000, I'd be shocked. So it's at like almost 30 now.
Yeah.
So dude, I'm going to say I'm going $20,000 less than your bid. What was your bid?
Wow.
60?
60, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going 20 under. I think this thing's DOA. Does it have a reserve?
Yeah.
It does have a reserve. Yeah, I'm with you. I think the guy probably thinks it's worth that, but who's buying this car? This is
Nobody.
not a blue chip car. No one's pining for this thing. I think,
Yeah.
No one wants a car that they know there's going to be in the shop every other time they drive it, and that's the reputation that this thing has. On top of that, look at some of the pictures. One thing I didn't notice while I was jibber jabbing about being a lot punk years ago. Clean the damn thing, guys. What are you doing? Look at this. I mean, maybe we'll talk more about this on the other side. But they've got there's obviously like a protection film on this thing along the bottom, and it's picked up all this dirt. Replace that, make it clean looking. It just looks dirty under the wind. The presentation of this car is just not good. Which I think, on top of a softening on the market, on top of a car, this not being a car that anyone's really looking for, I think this guy this is his car.
John, I also, as you said, look at the photos. I went and I looked again. This has to be one of the smallest buckets of photos I've seen for a special car in a long time. Yeah. That's not going to get it done, buddy. You got to come to the party with 150 photos or start over.
Well, the Nerd Herd does a great job playing along with us. This is where the show kind of gets really fun. You can play along by putting your bid in the comments below.
Right?
A lot of times what the Nerd Herd does is, I think a lot of these guys are getting so good at it. I mean, I swear to God, Anthony is cheating. There's no freaking way. He's getting like millimeters away from, he's already gotten 2 or 3 Yahtzees. I think he's just skipping ahead to the end and seeing what the car went for and then going back, I went for this. No, Anthony, I'm kidding. No, you can't do that on this episode. We're doing it live, right? So you can't skip ahead and find out this car has not cleared. And speaking of Anthony, I got to give a shout out to him. He sent us a swag bag. Michael Deeb, you have some stuff coming to you. Check this out. He sent us Tag Heuer pens because he has a watch business. And he got us
awesome.
These cool. Check it.
That
he got
is
us
awesome.
These cool Tag Heuer little books. Sick. They're like carbon fiber. This is really dope. My wife stole mine. This is yours. Yeah. She's like, I'm taking this. I'm like, what?
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Thank you, Anthony.
So, Anthony, you got to send me another one because Rochelle took mine.
Yeah.
No, it's super awesome. Ross, Anthony got your T-shirt. Sorry, dude. He sent it back to us because yours is a special size. Ross, it's coming. Your shirt is going to make its way to
New Zealand,
New Zealand, yeah. It's got a ways to go, but it's happening. So you've got his hat. He's got yours. Whatever. We'll get it all sorted out. Thanks, guys. Love the Nerd Herd.
I forgot to mention that one of the best things of the week, Mark Shane, who might be doing a Cars Un Cafe in Boston. Mark Shane, very active in the PCA in the Boston sort of New England region. Talked Hagerty into sending him out and supporting Speed Digital while we did the live auction for 2 days. So Mark Shane came out with a couple of people from Speed Digital, Hagerty. Super nice guy, JP. I can't wait for you to meet him. He is the best. It was great to meet him and hang out for like 3 days. Just a wonderful guy. And he came to the track with us on Saturday as well. So Mark, shout out. Great to see you. Great to meet you in person finally. I hope you get it together and can do a Cars Un Cafe with us out there in your neck of the woods. We're pulling for you, buddy. Keep it up.
That'd be awesome, Mark. All right. Let's move on to the next car. What's next, Michael Deeb?
JP, also shockingly on Bring a Trailer is this 1973 Porsche 914 2.0 2-liter. JP, take a look and tell me if you can remember. You and I and Mikey Patriquin, on the recommendation of that guy that had the 996, we went to Sandy over
Randy
by
sent us out there.
yeah, Randy sent us to Sandy, and we went to see that guy who lived near an airport where his house also had a hangar for his airplane. You could literally take the airplane out of his front driveway, go down the street, and get right on the tarmac and fly out. I mean,
I'm so moving out there.
Parts of Nevada are so effing cool.
Yeah.
People in California do not understand. But while we were down there, JP, we wanted to go see because he had some cool cars there. And the car that I fell in love with was a 914. Was it not, John, this color on the exterior?
Yeah, is this Delphi green or something like that? Or,
yes,
yeah.
Exactly right. Very good,
Yeah.
JP. Delphi green metallic paint. His had that sort of baseball glove, tan, not tan, but like a brown leather, and I think he had some cocoa mats. I don't remember if there was an engine in the car, but the car was dry. It was very straight, and he had all the pieces inside the barn. He had like 3 914 motors. You could just have one, and I kind of regret, although I didn't really have the money for a project at that time because I was getting married, I kind of regret not buying that guy's car. That was really fun to go see that car. So when I saw this car, JP, it reminded me of what his car could have looked like done. So it's a 1973 Porsche 914 2-liter. This car has spent some time in Idaho, and it is currently in Renton, Washington. It's showing 76,000 miles, 5-speed manual transmission, beautiful. JP, these little wheels are actually Fuchs wheels, right?
They are, yeah, the 4-spoke Fuchs.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this guy's saying they're 15-inch Fuchs wheels, but John, they look like 14s in the photo. Could those really be 15-inch wheels?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be surprised, if they were 15.
This car has an all black interior, and at least from the photos, looks to be in pretty decent condition. This car has fuel injection, right? So it's a 2-liter flat four that's fuel injected. It makes about 91 horsepower. The engine was rebuilt by Chris's German Auto Service of Redmond, Washington in 2019. So pistons, cylinders, camshaft, spark plug wires, fuel injectors, oil pump, muffler, and a few other sensors and hoses. This car got some work done to it, and so it looks... I'm telling you, JP, this car's got great eyeball for me. I love that green color. I love the all black interior. The car looks kind of straight. I'm sure we could dig in there and pick it apart a little bit. It's hard to do that when you're not standing over a 914. As I send it over to you, JP, like when yours truly looks at a car like that, and I get all ethered up on the pictures really easy. I'm an emotional guy, I'll admit it. But would you feel comfortable buying a car like this sight unseen? Because when we talk about things like the hellhole where the battery goes and how easily these cars are subject to having rot and tin worm and stuff like that, does that make you nervous? Does that shy you away from ever buying a 914 on an online auction when you couldn't theoretically have the car inspected by somebody you trust? Would you just reserve the idea that if you're shopping for a 914, you would have to go to either find it in Vegas, go out to Southern California, or maybe look at one someday when you're at home in Washington State? Would you just save a 914 shopping for when you could actually peer your own head over the car and look at it for yourself? You know what I mean? Does this car create a fork in the road for you? Because you wouldn't want to pay a top dollar for a car that could easily be a roach, and you might not be able to tell from the photos.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, there's some pretty good underside photos on the car, but they're just not good enough. Anybody that knows 914s and is shopping for 914s, like this photo here of the floorboard. Okay, if you're shopping for an air-cooled car of this era in non-galvanized, like a Volkswagen or whatever, you definitely want to look at the floorboards because a lot of times they get rotted out. But anybody looking for the 914 wants to see the hellhole. Where is the picture of the hellhole? That is highly suspect that they didn't get a camera up in there and prove that isn't taken care of. Now, one thing, you say about talking to an expert or having a PPI, it's tough to have a PPI. And why would you pay for a PPI on an auction car that you may not be able to buy. You might get outbid on.
Right.
So it does want a PPI being a pre-purchase inspection for those that don't know. One good news about this car in particular is the fact that engine was recently rebuilt at Chris's German, which is a very reputable shop in the Seattle area. I've had when I still lived up there, they worked on my cars often. They far, are the best, one of the best in town.
How far is Redmond from downtown Seattle, and how far
it's
are
across
they
the lake? It's basically it's Redmond is where all the tech stuff is. That's where the Microsoft campus is. It's considered the east, or actually, I'm sorry, that's where Redmond is. Renton is south. So Chris's German auto is in Redmond, whereas Renton is down south. It's kind of a blue-collar area of town. It's on the south end of the lake. So if you're in downtown Seattle and traffic's clear, which it never is, you can be there in 10 minutes.
Cool.
You know, it's where the airport is or whatever. But you know, looking at the plates on this thing, you said that it started out in Idaho. It must have been a long time ago when it made it to Washington, because that's the old license plate. That's the license plate style that I grew up with. And look at that WYC 914. That seems to me like they got lucky. I mean, that's amazing, because I don't think they did custom plates back then, and I don't know what. Maybe it is. I don't know, but that is a really cool license plate. Or maybe that's just an old plate that they popped on. It's surprising, you know, in Washington State, for $50, when you get your annual tags, you know, and you pay your fees or whatever. In Washington State, you on a car like this, there's no emissions, and you can pay an extra $50 and never have to buy tabs again. You get your classic tabs as long as you drive it under a certain amount of miles. So it's pretty interesting.
They don't have that in California.
Yeah, that is for darn sure. So yeah, I don't know. I'd be very suspect on this car because they're not showing the hellhole. However, call Chris's German. You know, I think John is still the shout out to Chris's German. If John's still there, he's the guy that will probably answer the phone and say, "Hey, how's the hellhole in this car?" If I were the owner of this car, I would go to Chris's German and say, "Hey, could you guys comment on here and let everybody know that that's okay?" Because if it is, they would, and why wouldn't they? They would vouch for it, and to have them vouch for it means clear sailing. But without that, I don't know. You know, I mean, this is a good-looking car. It's got a lot of patina, a lot of dings, a lot of dents. It does look like it's a repaint or repaints on certain areas. There's overspray on, you know, some of the stuff here and there. Which a car like this, okay, whatever, not the end of the world.
That, yeah, you'd expect that. Yeah.
So I don't think you're going to have to pay a premium for this car. This looks like a great driver. You want a 2-liter. If it's solid with a recent rebuild from a reputable shop, man, let's go. So what do you think what's going to happen with this car's auction?
All right, JP. So our car out of Renton, right? Am I saying that right? Renton, Washington. This 73 Porsche 914 2.0 is sitting at currently $12,914 on just pulling it up 9 bids. So JP, I don't think this car is in $30,000 condition. The market is softening on stuff like this. These are still great deals. It's hard to believe because the panel gaps look pretty good, and I love the eye-catching color, and the interior doesn't look ratty at all. I want to believe this is a $27,000 car, but I just came back from Monterey and people were struggling to sell stuff. Like the market is soft, and so you told me I was high on the last car we did. So I'm gonna check myself at $27,000 and take, I don't know, $5,000 off of that and go, could you really get a car like this for $22,000? I'm going to try. I'm going to say somebody's going to win this auction for $22,000. That's my bid, JP. Tell me I'm crazy, because I know I am.
If it were any other color other than this, I think that it wouldn't get anywhere close than that. But because it is this color, I think it has a strong chance to get to 20. But I think it's going to struggle to even make 20. I'm going to say 18.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I can't
Yeah,
believe you're still taking the under. I really thought I lowballed this one. I'm
yeah.
shocked you're going
If it
under
were
me.
super clean and but it's not. This is driver status.
Okay.
And we're also, the other thing too is, I'm here in Las Vegas. It's still 100 degrees out, but everywhere else you're going into fall. Like we're gonna snap our fingers and
And you won't
summer's
be able
over.
to drive it. Yeah.
So this is not a car that people want in the wintertime. I mean, this is definitely a second car. This is a fun car. This is a cheap way to get into the air-cooled club. And I think this would be a great way to do it. If you've ever been going, I'm thinking I'd like, man, lower. Do you remember that one in Vegas that was this color that was lowered? That kid had that one that was perfect, and he had it just laid out. It looked so good. I'll have to find some pictures on the other half of the show on this one. But let's move on from the 914 and put your bid in the comments below. Let's see if you're better at this than we are. And let's get to the last car of this episode. What do we got now?
All right, JP, I picked this car just to rub your nose in it.
Mm-hmm.
What we're talking about also on Bring a Trailer is this 2000 Ford Mustang SVT Cobra R, the car that is the bane of John Polnick's existence. Our car is offered out of Hueytown, Alabama. It is number 27 out of just 300 produced, and this particular car, John, has 717 miles on it. So some dealer principal bought it and probably drove it as a demo, but it's probably still on its original MSO. I'm making that up. I don't know if that's true or not, but like this car, it doesn't even have 1,000 miles on it. JP, it's 717 miles. They haven't even put gas in this car more than 3 times in 23 years. Really special car, JP. So the guys at SVT, the special vehicle team at Ford, decided to make a Cobra R that would literally be able to go head-to-head with a Corvette on a racetrack and do something special. So what they did is they took the old sort of Fox body platform and they gave it an independent rear suspension. That was the main modification to the handling on this car. Obviously, it's got these really big, beautiful 17-inch alloy wheels that I think are like 8.5-inch wide, if my memory serves me. Oh, they're 18-inch wheels that are, I think, 8.5-inch wide. You got Brembo brakes, iBox springs, built-in shocks, a huge rear wing, a 6-speed manual with a short throw shifter in it. It's got side exit exhaust. But the real story is this rev-happy 5.4 liter double overhead cam V8 that is under the hood that made allegedly 385 horsepower. But I think a lot of people dynoed them and said they were actually putting down 385 horsepower. So I think they were easily over 400 horsepower and 400 pound-foot of torque. Big front lip spoiler. In the end, JP, a lot of the switchgear is that of a cheap $23,000 Mustang from Imperial. I know you would take this car to task by suggesting that it's not special enough, and why on earth would anybody pay 6 figures for a car like this? And you said there's no way these cars are worth the money. And I'm just telling you, when Ford, a company that big that has that many fanboys, puts a special car out there and numbers it, and then really limits how many they produce, in this case, only 300. This is one of the rarest Ford Mustangs they've ever made. They're going to bring the collector money all day long. This one looks to be in spectacular condition with under 1,000 miles. This is the one that somebody would want to put away and hermetically seal, which has been done so for the last 2 decades. JP, I present to you the stone in your shoe, the Mustang SVT Cobra R, and I promise you this car is going to go for over 6 figures. So, John, tell me what you like about it and tell me what you don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into and all over this one. I mean, hey, look, this one at least has that stupid front lip that I think the last time we talked about one of these, it was missing. And I could see why everyone's like, well, why didn't they just get another? I mean, that is just ridiculous. It just, Ford sensibilities are just, the design sensibilities by the Americans have always been terrible. It just, I appreciate this car that it exists. I see no value in spending the extra money for it. Isn't the Fox body? You said this is a Fox body. Isn't the Fox body the previous one?
Yeah, but
this is something else, right?
Yeah, but like this is an evolution of the Fox body platform.
Okay,
and they were all live rear axles. One of the things that made this car so special was that I think it was the first time I think it was the first time that you could get a Mustang for the road that had an independent rear suspension from the factory.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
I'm sure it's a ton of fun. I just hate just the look of this car is just so dang ugly. And it looks, I mean, look, seriously, nothing has changed at Ford. I mean, they just came out with this monstrosity. It's just
such a great juxtaposition. That absolutely looks like an evolution of the car that we're looking at. That is
right.
So
I mean, this is it's like, oh, if we tack a bunch of junk on it, if we try to copy people who do things better, if we put the fender gills on it like the GT3 and the big scoops on the backward scoops on the hood, and it's like, come on, guys, you're paying just okay, fine,
so funny.
Whatever.
That is so funny. Go back to the same photo of the current Cobra R.
Right? I mean, it's just like, sorry,
it absolutely. It's history repeating itself. Yeah. Look at the gills on the hood.
A bunch of doodads. Yeah. You got the gills on the hood. You got the big stupid spoiler. The only thing is, I wonder if the air intake on the back, right? So you got this little air intake, and you guys see my. On this generation of Mustang, I always hated the fact that went nowhere. Like this air duct doesn't do anything. Can you guys see it there? That's like it's plugged up. Yeah. That's just adding drag to the car. Does this air duct go do these go anywhere, or are they just for looks? I don't know. I'm sure on a $300,000 car they probably do something, I would hope. But all right. What's some idiot going to pay for this thing?
Oh, JP, I hope you're sitting down, my friend. All right. Ford Mustang Cobra R, who, by the way, is selling the week of that new, what do they call that thing that just dropped?
GTD, I think, the Mustang GTD.
Yeah, GTD, the Grand Touring Daytona class.
There you go. Mr.
All right, John. All right, make sure you're sitting down and strapped in. Our car is currently sitting at $115,000 on 8 bids. The high watermark for this car is around 140,000, and I actually think this car is going to get it. So I'm literally just going to transpose the highest result from one of these, and it's because this one's in good condition, and ultimately it's because it's showing less than 1,000 miles. Nobody's been tempted to drive this thing. It's just been being saved for the next guy, as you said to Adam Carolla once upon a time. So I'm going to give you $140,000 for the Mustang Cobra R. What do you think?
I don't pretend to have any idea. I can't get in this person's head. I know that this car is special to a certain demographic. It ain't me. But I'm just going to go soft just because it's soft. So what was your number?
140.
Yeah, I'm going to go 130. I'll park at 10 grand underneath you and just take the under on this. Let us know what you think this Cobra R will bring. Will it bring all the money? Will it set a new record, or will it peter out because we're seeing a bit of a correction? Now is the time to place your bid in the comments below and see if you're better at this than we are. You probably are. And Nerd Nation, if you've been watching this, thanks so much for hanging out, you guys. This is awesome. This has been totally fun to do. Next time we do this, I'll figure out how to do the super chat thing, so that we can see comments and stuff. I don't. Wait a minute. Maybe I know how to do this. Let's see if I see something. I just saw a button here. Man, there's some people watching. I think is this?
Yeah. We had
these old comments. I can't tell. It doesn't.
Old comments. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I seriously don't know how this works, but Vampire Bear 13. Hello. From Mark in Ohio, hello to you. Cotton Candy Randy, that's an awesome handle. P-Car Market sucks. That is all. You are correct, Cotton Candy Randy. You are our new best friend. Alejandro, hello from Dallas, Texas. Rami's hanging out. Thanks, Rami. He says, great
What's
show,
up,
guys. Shout out to Rami. We are in the Rami studio. If you haven't already, if you're a fan of the show, you probably know about the Rami Show. Go check out our latest episode on the Rami Show about the Lotus Evora that you can win at Vegas Auto Fest this year. Everybody that shows up to Vegas Auto Fest this year has a chance to win this Lotus. So go check that out. Looks
I'm
like
driving that car home.
Buddha is on saying live nerds. That's awesome, Buddha. Thanks for watching. Anthony, of course. He's like, how did I miss this? Because we didn't say dick. We just we're going to try it. We didn't. I'll write you a letter next time with the pen that you sent us. Thanks, Anthony. Randy Bloom, greetings from Potato Land. I assume that is also Idaho. He's in the same place. Anthony's up there in Idaho. Ross found us. Hey, team, just spotted the live show. Ross, what are you doing up, man? Get some sleep, bro. You're on the other side of the country. Is it like 3 in the morning? What time is it there? Boy, I wish I would have seen these while we were gone. Sorry, guys, we're just learning this system. So we've got some bids in here, some comments, and we are definitely going to. Anthony says, "Enjoy the swag." We will for sure.
Sweet.
You guys are playing
Thank you,
along.
Anthony.
This is great, man. This would have been way more fun if I'd have noticed that you guys were playing along. We'll do a better job next time, guys. We may actually do another live show very soon. We may not wait till Sunday just because we're trying to catch up with extra episodes. We're going to break this up into smaller pieces for the daily stuff.
Look for an announcement on the gram, and we'll tell you a couple days out that we're going to do something.
Yeah, and I think there's a way to do a premiere thing too, so the thing will come up, and then it'll put that out there, and we can kind of have a countdown or something like that. Well, like I said, we'll figure out the technical side of it. But thank you guys so much for hanging out. That's really rad. It's
Absolutely.
nice to see you guys being part of this. All right, Michael Deeb, thank you very much. We're going to close this episode out. Thanks, Nerd Herd. Thanks, God and Classic. Sign up for the Vegas Auto Fest if you haven't done it already. And if you haven't hit the subscribe, like, and notification button yet for Bid Nerds, do it now. Thanks for hanging out this long. That was a little bit of a marathon. We'll do it again soon. Bye, guys.
Peace.
Come on.
Nerd! Get those nerds!